To talk more about it, we'll cross now to Cindy McCreery in Sydney. She's a cultural historian and specialist of the British royal family. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today, Cindy.
Good morning, Erin.
So can you tell us who exactly is marking this occasion? Does it include people from all walks of life, on all continents, across the Commonwealth?
I think that there's a great deal of interest and sympathy for the Queen around the world, including Australia. But I think it's not the case that people in Australia or other countries are necessarily celebrating with as much excitement as the crowds that we see in the streets of London. In Australia, for example, we've just had a major change of government. We have a new Labor government. And while I don't think that means that Australia will, in any short term, become a republic, there are definitely questions being asked about how long Australia should remain with having the British monarch as head of state. As a recent Prime Minister here said, Malcolm Turnbull, more Australians are probably Elizabethans than monarchists. That is, that they support and value and admire the Queen. And many Australians will be wanting to express their gratitude to Her Majesty for her 70 years of service. But I don't think that's quite the same as for people in Britain who really don't see any other perhaps logical form of government. I think people in Australia and across the Commonwealth around the world respect the Queen, admire her, thank her for her service, but are also aware that countries like Barbados, for example, are members of the Commonwealth, but are also now republics.
So why do you think Australia then, Cindy, is kind of in the process of this debate as to what the Queen means to Australia?
I think Australia today is a very different, more multicultural nation than it was when the Queen first visited in 1954. If you look at our population, we are a country with people from many different backgrounds, faiths, ethnicities, and colors. And I think that that's why when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle visited Australia on a royal tour, they were warmly welcomed. I think for many younger Australians who may not have any British identity, they may really warm and welcome the youth that Harry and Meghan brought and really respect their interest in healing divisions among people of color around the world. So I think that Meghan Markle is a really important symbol for many people, not just in Australia, but around the world. And I think that's where some tensions can arise, especially in countries outside of Britain, which certainly respect the Queen and the royal family, but are also perhaps a little uncertain about the role that people of color play in Britain today.
Speaking of the role that people of color play in Britain today, and perhaps the absence of people of color in the entourage close to the royal family, do you think that the British monarchy has a race problem, a diversity problem?
Look, I think that many institutions, not just the royal family, can do more to welcome people of color. I don't think that's a problem unique to the royal family. But I do think that we know that there have been tensions in the past, and certainly Meghan Markle, at least, has shared her experience of feeling that she has not maybe been fully welcomed or understood, despite also she has, of course, acknowledged the warmth with which she's been met by the Queen herself. And she's very clear on that very warm relationship. I think this weekend, of course, offers an opportunity, not just for Harry and Meghan, but for people of color to really see that they do matter. I think one of the highlights of this weekend's festivities is going to be Sunday's pageant at the Palace, which is going to include a pageant 3 kilometers long, including dancers, singers, children, key workers, and members of defense forces, including members of the Australian Defence Force. And what's really interesting is that they've cast a young woman of Malaysian heritage, Janice Ho, a 22-year-old, as a dancer who will actually play the role of Princess Elizabeth in the pageant. And that was seen as a really important decision, and a decision which is really affirming Britain's modernity and its acceptance of people of color. So that's an example where I think things are changing, and things are changing for the better.
Okay, so let's talk perhaps a little bit about her popularity, because recent polling in the UK shows that over 8 in 10 people do have a positive opinion of her. Just 12% see her negatively. What do you think makes her so admired, and how do you think she compares to other British royals in terms of popularity?
I think that Queen Elizabeth has earned her admiration through every year of her reign. She has shown up for work. She has not complained. She has been gracious. She has been kind. She has shown compassion. And I think she's widely regarded as perhaps the most respected leader in the world today, and that she's earned that. So I think that explains her enormous and well-deserved popularity. I think other members of the royal family have perhaps a less stellar career. You've mentioned Prince Andrew, of course, and Harry as well has courted controversy. And we know that today there are certainly many people who are less certain about Harry and Meghan's commitment, for example, to Britain and the royal family. Other members of the royal family, like Prince Charles, have also at times been quite unpopular, as has Camilla. So I think the Queen is really unique in the current royal family in terms of her current popularity. Having said that, there are certainly a lot of interest and sympathy for younger members of the royal family, such as Prince William and Kate and their family. And I think going ahead, there's a lot of interest in that family as future, and Prince William in particular, as a future British monarch.
But this family has seen, as you suggested in your response there, Cindy, it's seen its fair share of scandals. Prince Andrew, as you mentioned, several divorces, Princess Diana's passing. Do you think the Queen had a leadership role in weathering these crises? How do you think that fits into the way that the family is viewed? I ask because from an exterior perspective, you'd think that monarchs are expected to be kind of irreproachable, if not perfect. Otherwise, there's few that sets them apart from regular people. So how do you think they've balanced that?
I think it's been difficult, and I think the Queen herself has at times not struck the right note. I'm thinking in particular of her immediate response to the death of Diana, when, as we know, the Queen and Prince Philip stayed at Balmoral. Now, they stayed there for a good reason, because they were trying to shield Prince Harry and Prince William from the press after the devastating loss of their mother Diana in a car accident. But from the perspective of the British people and many people around the world, they felt the Queen was too slow to respond to the national outpouring of grief at Diana's death. So that was perhaps one moment where the Queen misstepped. But on the whole, I think the Queen has been almost flawless. Now, of course, we have to remember that as monarch, she is not only well advised, but she's shielded from negative publicity. I think all monarchs are, in a sense, get an easier ride, perhaps, than junior members of the royal family who aren't perhaps accorded as much sort of shielding from the press. But on the whole, I think the Queen has really led the family well and tried to harmonize where there have been difficulties and trying to paper over differences of opinion. But as she said in 1992, her Annus Horribilis, the year that both two of her children divorced and there was a terrible fire at Windsor, I think that she showed the strain there. She is, after all, only human, and like any family, there are problems. But I think she's done her best to try and maintain a sense of dignity and grace throughout some difficult years.
Cindy McCreery, thank you so much for your time. We'll keep it there for now.